where we talked about 3 pillars that underlies a corporate accelerator, and in which the last pillar was maybe even one of the most important ones, is the right type of mindset. You can call it entrepreneurial mindset, or a leadership mindset, or growth mindset. It doesn't really matter, but you need to foster and develop that in order to make your corporate accelerator successful and also not completely stress out the teams. If you then look at principles of an accelerator, what are principles on which an accelerator should be built? One is that we make evidence-based decisions. Of course, if you want to act on speed and skill at the same time, a lot of speed is lost in multiple meetings, talking about ideas and figuring out if person A or person B has the best idea. In accelerators, that is of less importance, because we basically say, look, an idea doesn't really have inherent value. So what's the assumption and how are we going to test it? If you want to speed up your meetings, if you want to speed up your decision-making process, this by itself can already be a principle that you can apply tomorrow. But evidence-based decisions has another connotation, which basically means the team needs to bring data behind certain assumptions that we have formulated together, and we exactly also know when that assumption is invalid or not valid. So we defined success criteria. And if the team can't bring the data to show it is successful or not successful, we actually have an answer. We follow the data and we make decisions based on the data. Number 2 is traction is the goal. Of course, you can also talk a long time about the best pathway, the best experiment, the best way to set it up. It's all helpful to have that conversation, but the goal is traction. Can we find traction with the consumer in the market? Do they click on our ads? Do they recognize that problem? Do they fill in a survey because they want to look for a solution maybe to solve their problem? Do they pre-order our product? Do they actually buy our product? Do they buy it more than once? And traction is something you build up step by step, also in an accelerator. You don't immediately start selling your product for a price point. You want to build it up and step by step make a product customers and consumers love. So traction is the goal, and how fast can we find it? Because if we can't find traction, that already gives us a very big signal. The third principle is progress over perfection. And it is a bit related also to traction, but also here, what is the best design? What could be the best survey? What could be the best copy for our advertisement? How can we best make the page UX friendly? Progress is more important than perfection, because we still need to test what perfection actually means, but we test it with the consumer. So progress over perfection. And this all sounds in theory fantastic, but we also know that when we start making decisions very fast, people might feel uncomfortable with the fact that we don't know for sure. That's something that you need to foster, cherish, and prepare your people for. Tackle risky assumptions first. This is something in practice not enough executed, because you can test many different assumptions and nice to have experiments, which maybe gives you some indication if you're on the right way or not. But if we really want to validate if there is a business potential, we need to tackle the biggest risky assumptions as far as we can, because this will tell us, is there actually a business? Validate qualitatively and verify quantitatively. This is quite obvious for many reasons, but qualitative research methods and experiments gives us more in-depth understanding of the consumer world. It's about empathy. It's about understanding your consumer very well. But you can't make big claims if you have spoken to 25 people. You might see a first pattern, but what you would like to verify quantitatively is exactly that pattern that you might find in your interviews or observations. So quantitatively, you can then cross-validate if that pattern also sticks with a much larger audience than your small sample size of interviewees. Last but not least, remove failure from your vocabulary. So also this practiced a lot, and a lot of talks about failure, that it's okay and that you can fail fast and fail cheap. But if you operate in an organization where hierarchy and power is just as legitimate as the next experiment. Fail fast and fail cheap is not always the best remedy to provide a good career path. Saying this is something very different than actually embracing this type of idea. And let's be honest, nobody wants to fail. The goal of an accelerator is also not to fail constantly, but it's to figure out what do we need to build next. But remove failure from your vocabulary is so important, because if you can't fail, or people have the idea you can't fail, there is no learning. And when there is no learning, you can't innovate.